And this segment's political maniac is North Korea.
Yep.
Rich, take it away.
Sure. Okay. So North Korea has been in the news recently. North Korea actually attempted a missile launch this past week, which was obviously on our radar, observed, and a massive failure. Now, why is this so significant right now? There are two things going on that should cause some concern for those who are paying attention to what's going on in North Korea. Now, the first is right now the White House is considering raising some sanctions against North Korea and the countries that deal with it. There are some sweeping trade sanctions that can be put into place to send a message. Now, believe it or not, you know, from Donald Trump's diplomacy side of things, this is actually a bit more of a conservative approach than they could be taking. I mean, there are punitive and, you know, proactive military measures that the United States could take, and this, in a lot of ways, is in fact reasonable. Sanctions are generally the first step.
It's the olive branch.
It is. I mean, it could be worse, and you know, you look at countries like China, who, in some ways, Chinese banks and firms do business in North Korea. It is a global web, and they are not as isolated as many of us are led to believe. Now, interestingly enough, this missile launch comes at the same time, the second point, as a series of exercises that we do every spring along with South Korea. It runs for about a month in the spring, where we test and run through drills and exercises with South Korea and combined military exercises that happen right around North Korea, and as far as North Korea believes, encroaches on, you know, their sovereign space, or whatever you want to call it. And pretty much every year North Korea tries to do something to let, you know, let the world know that, like, hey, we're tough and you don't mess with us. And this year it was a failed missile launch. So off to a bad start for North Korea. Now, more will be revealed on this one for sure, but I want Richard's take on where he thinks Donald Trump will drive this North Korea thing.
That's very interesting, because I think what we also saw from Rex Tillerson, who was in the region this past week, he said that, you know, every option's on the table, including military options. Now,
which is a party line of Donald Trump. Yeah. You heard him say that during the campaign.
But here's the problem with a military option in North Korea. I actually know quite a bit about. You'd be surprised. So when we signed the Sunshine Pact, or the Sunshine Pact in 1993, we gave them the light water reactors, and we gave them the oil. This is Kim Jong-il. This is the son. This is the father. That was the son. This is the father now. What Bill Clinton was.
This is the son now.
Yeah, this is the son now. That was the father. Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-il was the one former. And what Bill Clinton was trying to do was to try to find a way to normalize relations between North Korea and the rest of the free world. Now, here's the Achilles heel for all of this, right? Is the Chinese. The Chinese has a huge influence over the North Koreans, and so for anything we do in the region, as far as trying to find a way to counterbalance North Korea. Now, North Korea doesn't have very much power in the region. What North Korea really is, it's like, you know, he's like the little kid. Not really. They're
like a pawn that gets moved around in the.
It's like five people sitting in a room. All of them are bodybuilders, and you have like a kid who you have 6'3" bodybuilders in a room, right? And you have one guy. He's 5'5", but he happens to have a loaded pistol, right? And that's really what this is, right? So even if you, like, you know, worst case scenario, if they could get one of their missiles off without it blowing up, or, you know, gets farther than, you know, the middle of a couple of miles off the coast of Japan, then they could, quote unquote, maybe they can do some damage, right? But they're not going to destroy Japan.
I mean,
but I think
that's the bottom line.
I think the most we can say is that, you know, maybe North Korea has 1 or 2 nuclear weapons. Now the question is, do they have the delivery systems to get these weapons? Do they have the intercontinental ballistic missiles to put these weapons on? Now that's the question. Now that's what we don't know. We've been sort of speculating since 1993 that they've actually had they've had the warheads, and they know how to they have the fissile material, but they don't really know how to, like, put it all together. Right? So, but here's the thing. I think we need to send a very strong warning to the North Koreans that, like, we're not playing games. So I actually think sanctions is the first way to go. But it should be told, sanctions, they don't really care. I mean, the people are already starving. If you look at a satellite map of North and South Korea, like, South Korea is all lit up, and North Korea is, like, dark. It's just dark. So that's not really going to work. for any policy that we do with North Korea is going to involve the Chinese saying, listen, we're going to stop helping you. And for that to happen, Trump has to create better relations with the Chinese, which that doesn't seem to be, he's not moving.
That's not on the, I mean.
That's not even on the table.
Yeah.
So that's a linchpin to that region. And that's why China can play so squirrely, right, and piss off their neighbors, because they could be like, listen, y'all want to get rid of North Korea when we feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, and the North Korea nuclear threat is really an interesting kind of situation. I mean, because to actually try to attempt any kind of nuclear move is basically suicidal, right? Like it's like the leader just saying, "Screw it, I don't care."
Everybody knows it's mutually assured destruction, because the moment North Korea launched a nuclear weapon,
it's over for them.
We're going to, but the whole globe is going to a nuclear war. So it's within, and one would argue, I mean, the argument I would make is like where Trump might actually be where he could be helpful is he could use the Russians to influence the Koreans. Remember, the Koreans and the Russians share a border, and any type of war, any type of military action that we have with ground troops will involve somehow, some way, the Russians. Right. So clearly Trump is cushy with Putin, so maybe him and Putin can team up and actually deal with this global threat.
I mean, it'll be interesting. It's a very small powder keg that exists, but I mean, historically we've seen sometimes, unfortunately, all it takes is one powder keg to.
Right, and I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Economic freedom is the best way to solve these problems, because I mean, the other powder keg that we've had for years on end in Asia was India, Pakistan, right, and the Kashmir region, and like the fact that both India and Pakistan had their nuclear weapons on hair trigger alert, like pointed at each other like this, like who's going to call first. But thanks to economic development and in the spread of development in both Pakistan and India, that scenario of nuclear war, while still likely, has gone down tremendously. Because people are like, listen, I don't got time for nuclear war. I'm worried about money.
I got Netflix now, and that is amazing.
I'm trying to get some American factories to be built in my backyard. I don't got time to be worried about these damn nukes.
Yeah.
So
it's a messy issue.
It's very messy. But the one point I want to make here, and this is one thing I want people at home to understand, is as Donald Trump continues to build up our military, right? This is a cautionary tale. And I mean, he's talked about, amping up our nuclear program. Now that is what's going to trigger a global arms race. It's going to be not a race at the bottom, it's a race at the top of who can develop. The moment we start developing nuclear weapons again, all the other nuclear countries, India, Pakistan, North Korea, Iran, Russia, China, Germany has a couple, France has a couple, everyone's like, hell, y'all developing? Whatever, so are we. Yeah. And so that's the cautionary tale here, especially for a country like North Korea, because we can't say that it's okay for us to develop nuclear weapons and then say it's not okay for them to develop nuclear weapons, even though we're in treaties that say we can't develop nuclear weapons. So this is what we need to watch for.
Yeah, I mean, if we're in a situation where when we start, ramping up the factories again on nuclear weapons, you need to be worried.
Yeah, you should be very worried. And I mean, we've seen it. George Bush did it too. I mean, George Bush ramped up weapons. He was developing the RNAP, which is the robust nuclear earth penetrator, which was a bunker buster that had a drill bit on the tip that would drill down 100 yards.
Dr. Evil.
And then it would explode, right? And when he was doing that, guess what? We saw other countries start to develop weapons as well. Like, if you're going to develop, we're going to develop. And we really should be working with the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, I think their title is, on trying to slowly get rid of weapons of mass destruction, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons.